Hello and welcome to Quality Time. My name is Habib and I'm going to be your quality guide today. And with me is Maciej Gdula, the founder of Skillforce, the software house that actually specializes in AI that is so famous right now. He specializes in many things, but let's hear it from Maciej. Maciej, if you have to introduce yourself in three simple words, how would you introduce yourself?
Maciej Gdula.
Two.
Okay, and the third word, founder.
Okay.
Because I don't want to present myself as a founder of Skillforce because I do a lot of things in IT, and I have done a lot of things in IT. Basically, I started in 1994, so it was quite a long time ago. I'm almost a dinosaur.
94, it was before computers were invented.
Not quite. Yeah, we had some wooden dummies that resembled a computer, but yeah, that was fun. To be honest, I started, my first contact with computers was in 1982.
Okay.
Because my father worked at the university and he got his first computer of those first Sinclair's ZX81.
Okay.
With 16 kilobytes of memory. Yeah, it was capable of displaying two colors, basically one color and no color. But of course, I was too young to understand what possibilities it had at this time, especially if compared to the computers from those times that was as big as the whole room, with all those paper tapes, with all these discs that resembled a long play with music.
So imagine this. Here we are with a guy who remembers computers that are less powerful than my charger, the USB-C charger. I think it has much more kilobytes of memory.
True. Yeah, I was lucky enough to be the witness of the whole revolution.
And how funny it is that from there to what you're dealing with now, could you imagine it as a child that you're gonna work with artificial intelligence, with computer vision?
As a child, I was a fan of Stanisław Lem books, so
okay.
I remember Cyberiada and Robot Tales.
So Stanisław Lem is a great sci-fi Polish author. You should try to read him.
Definitely. So I remember his books. I remember robots. I remember cyber machines that he described in his novels. But at this time, I probably wasn't able to imagine that I will work with this on my daily basis. Day by day, I will deal with more sophisticated stuff than I read in these books.
Mm-hmm. That's crazy. If you could tell us a little bit more, what are you doing within the Skillforce? Of course, you do a lot more, but I'm really particularly interested in this one.
Sure. Our main area of activities is machine vision. Mm. So basically, we are gathering data from visual sources. It can be photos, movies, streams, everything that can be seen by the eye of camera or other sensors like lidars, like ultrasound sensors. Then we gather this data, we somehow work on them, we transform them into readable form and get the interesting elements out of them. Mm-hmm. Based on AI algorithms, based on old school maths.
Exactly. You told me that you love mathematics.
Yeah, I'm typical mathematic geek. As probably most of graduates of Science and Technical University from my times. My diploma thesis was related to computer vision, but since it was in 1999, it was only some small signs that AI will come here in the future. So my diploma thesis was based on mathematic transformation like Fourier transform and wavelet transform. I remember when I first got my subject, I contacted the guy from MIT, and he wrote me back that if you ever will be able to solve this problem using this mathematical engine, then I was strongly invited to be my co-professor in MIT. But I haven't. I haven't. After
almost an MIT professor.
Almost. After 4 months of very hard fight, I gave up.
Hmm.
And I asked my professor to change the subject
Okay.
into something more doable.
Okay. But in current days, because as a founder, you have a lot of things that you have to do day to day.
Yes.
But do you still do math for fun?
Yes, that's the only thing related to my work that I still can do for fun.
Okay, so it's actually within your work. You can still do it for fun.
Yes. Even last year I made an algorithm based on inverse kinematics to determine the angles in a human hand based on the position of the fingers seen by virtual reality goggles.
Okay, so you want to understand basically how your joints work.
No, it was a project. It was a project of VR app for people with PTSD.
Okay.
So they, thanks to virtual reality, they have been placed in some safe space, and ordered to do some very easy things like moving a cup from point A to point B.
Mm-hmm.
But the first step was to calibrate the system, and in order to calibrate the system, the user had to enter the maximum range of motion in different joints,
Mm-hmm.
which sometimes, especially after stroke, may be limited. So we have used the built-in algorithm that is built into Oculus Quest that detects the hand
Okay.
and returns the position in XYZ coordinates.
Mhm.
And having this and having the position of the origin of coordinates, which has been here,
Mm-hmm.
we are able to determine the angles
Mhm.
based on inverse kinematic. Inverse kinematics is the way of controlling robotic hands where you're not setting the angles,
Mhm.
but you're setting the point,
The endpoint.
the end point
Okay.
where a robot has to reach.
Hmm.
And based on this, you can calculate the angles.
It's very funny because what I've heard from my colleagues that specialize in robotics and robots and implementing them to the warehouses and factories, they usually told me that the funny part is when the customer calls you and he says, "Oh, we have a problem with our robot," and you come down to the factory. And they say, well, it behaves strangely, it moves strangely. And the robot, of course, moves in the most efficient way, but it's so unusual to the human eye that everyone thinks, oh, it must be broken.
Especially when the trajectory has to be optimized because of different reasons. For example, the location of the robot, where there are some, let's just say there are some boxes that has to be avoided. Then the robot, in fact, it moves in a strange way, but it's the only way to reach the point using the minimum energy consumption.
Okay. What is the most interesting project you have seen so far?
I have seen or I have done.
You have done is even better.
Let's just say the most interesting projects for me are the ones that help people. So I don't, of course, sometimes you have to do some projects that are simply, I just say, copies of something that's already working, but in a better way. But we've been working on a project that supports the rehabilitation process after a knee or hip surgery. Normally, in normal way, after such a surgery, you have to visit your physiotherapist at least once per week. And imagine a situation where you live far away from the hospital.
Or you're lazy like me.
Or you're lazy like you.
Oh.
And you have to travel. You have to travel, which can be very difficult, especially when you have a stiff knee. You need to use crouches, and you have a small car. And thanks to the system that we have developed, you can do this with your mobile phone. There is an application that tracks your motion and calculates the angles in joints and basically compares your movement to some templates that describe the ideal movement. Of course, there is a margin of error because we are built differently. And for example, the sit-up, if I will do it, will look differently than if you would do it.
Okay.
But this tool enabled people to work from home. Of course, they are still in touch with the physiotherapist, but most of his work can be replaced or optimized by AI. And thanks to this, physiotherapists in a hospital can work simultaneously with 10 patients, 15 patients.
Yeah, it doesn't sound so exciting if you're actually quite young, but I'm 36 and I had my knee injury. And, it's not that I'm lazy, but it's so hard to run the company, have a family, and in the same time, you have to find time to go to the physiotherapist, which takes time. You go through traffic. and you say you can just simply take your phone and it can assist your physiotherapist.
Exactly.
It can assist you in
But
doing some
Of
exercise.
course, it may not sound funny for young people, but imagine that you can use the same principles, the same algorithm, and the same kind of software to train basketball.
Okay, so
It
you
can
can
tr-
actually use it for
Yeah.
different kind of solutions,
You
like
can-
sports.
Yeah, we also have been we also use that with for tracking the rock climbers
Okay.
to determine the optimal way of motion on the wall.
Could you, for example, try to use this for emergency responders, like firefighters, when they go to the, for example, to the car crash, and they have to?
Not quite, because it analyzes the motion.
Okay.
But it can be used, for example, in security to detect some special movements, like, for example, riot,
Mm-hmm.
or if someone is aggressive and throws punches.
Mm-hmm.
It can be detected this way.
It's funny thing just came to my mind. Maciej, you're very passionate about the martial arts.
Yes.
And now I wonder if you can use this app to, for example, create the ultimate warrior.
The ultimate training partner,
Okay.
or the ultimate training tool. The same principles are already used by some Belgian startup
Mm.
that analyzes the boxing matches and counts the throws, counts the punches, calculates, it's called aggressiveness level.
Okay.
It probably means how many punches reach the target.
Okay.
It can be used as a support for judges.
Or support for betting.
Exactly, that's also used because in real-time betting, you can also bet how many punches will land on opponent's face.
Isn't it a bit scary if you work, because you work so close with the technology that is creating the future, that will reshape the way we actually exercise, that we actually live our lives. So isn't it scary for you? Because for me, it's something I read about, it's something I'm quite interested in, but it's still just a theory.
For me, it's like a tool.
Mm.
Let's imagine if you have a hammer. You can use it for fixing this table, or you can use it for punching someone's head.
Mm.
It's basically a tool, and you give a context.
Mhm.
You give the context. The same is with AI, with ChatGPT, with Stable Diffusion. It's a tool that listens to your comments.
Mm. So you're
It's
on-
basically, I'm not against AI. I'm not against machine vision, because these are tools.
Mm.
The same situation with Alfred Nobel and TNT.
Mm.
He invented something that was supposed to help miners,
Mm.
and maybe he didn't expect that it will be used as a weapon.
It's a funny thing if he didn't expect it or he did allow it. I'm really curious about the reasons, but certainly he wanted to repent for himself by creating the Nobel Prize.
Probably yes.
So should OpenAI create, with Microsoft, create the prize for people who will work for the safer AI or more human appropriate AI?
I think such works should be promoted and rewarded.
Do you
Maybe
think?
not in a way that resembles the Nobel Prize,
Okay.
but it should be promoted because it may be used for the goodness.
Don't you think it's very hard to promote this kind of approach within the idea of capitalism, where the money is the most important factor, the most important metric? So the question is if we can hope that these companies that are only oriented on money could work for the goodness, for these things that you cannot capitalize, or should we move back to state-funded science or state-funded prizes, AI?
No, I think that state-funded prizes are not quite equal for everyone.
Mm.
If you can see, for example, even in Poland,
Mhm.
the European funds,
Mhm.
the decisions are made by persons who are not always capable of making such decisions. Of course, on the other hand side, you mentioned the companies that are strictly aiming for money. That's also not a good way. I had such a situation in our company. We have developed a system that was able to translate the sign language,
Okay.
and we wanted to develop an app mobile app that could have been used by the handicapped people. But we haven't got any funding because all VCs told us there's no business in it.
So
you
it's
want,
not sexy.
you want to give it for free.
Of course.
We don't see any business in here.
Doesn't make sense.
Of course, there were plans that we are developed kind of black box that can be installed in banks, in offices, where there are 2 cameras and 2 displays. And the sign language is translated in the real time to the clerk and vice versa. But that was supposed to be a second step. The first step, we wanted to develop a mobile app that would have been developed for free.
But on the other hand, if you think about the new approach of European Union towards the AI or towards the technology, we have this act coming, the Accessibility Act, that will enforce that you take care about the accessibility part. So maybe this can stimulate the capital part of this invention.
Definitely it should. Definitely it should, but more in a way that should be similar like in medicine. Because the public health is a very important factor for each country. If it's invested, if it's well-founded, then people live longer, and thus they can work longer, pay taxes longer. So that should be somehow connected. They should understand that if they finance such ventures, it will be benefit for them as well. If there is no understanding, it won't succeed.
Don't you think that we have this big gap of knowledge? We have engineers who specialize in AI creating solutions. They work close with the code, with the hardware, with the equipment. And then we have lawyers, we have politicians that don't really have a clue about what's happening. And then we are talking about very important things right now, which have to be solved somehow. But if you ask engineer, they would probably don't care that much about it because they care about the resolution, the solution, right?
That's true. But I think it's a matter of education system.
Okay.
I have 3 daughters. They all go to schools, different schools, and they learn quite a lot of things, but without any connection to real world.
Okay.
For example, yesterday my older daughter asked me for help because she had to prepare a presentation about Oliver Cromwell.
Okay.
Of course, it's someone who is important for Britain. But I wonder whether British people prepare a presentation about, for example, Stanisław Dybuła, who was very important for Gliwice. I don't think so.
So why do you think you have these tasks in schooling system?
There's a lot of explanations, but I think the most convincing for me is the one that the education system, basically, as we know it right now, is coming from 19th century, where there were totally different expectations from education. People had to be educated. They had to obey to commands. They didn't have to ask questions. Right now, it's changing. And right now, I think that such interdisciplinary education, for example, if we engineers should know something more about social impact of our work. On the other hand side, lawyers and politicians should know a little bit more about the technical side of their decisions. I think that will solve the problem, but we need to change the way that we educate other people, that we educate our children, and we need to change the way that we are thinking about specialists, because specialist, in most cases, is the person who, as we said in Polish, eat all minds.
All minds.
So basically, in Polish, zjadł wszystkie rozumy. So I know everything, and
there is nothing more to be known.
I got my PhD in 1995, and since then, nothing has changed.
Okay.
And I'm the only one who knows everything. You don't know nothing.
Isn't it scary that for now, the 14-year-old someone in school, they would probably be much better off if they stayed at home and asked a couple of smart questions to ChatGPT, or got some books and based on that explored the knowledge? Because it seems like the schooling system for now, for me at least, it's something that is designed to occupy people, young people, so they don't, walk around, they don't cause trouble. But at this point of knowledge, accessibility, and the rise of AI, isn't it that young generation can just, if they want to know how to create some electronic equipment, they can just buy a course on Udemy for $20.
That's true, but I don't think so. I think that teachers still have a lot of things to do, but we should change the way how they work. They should, in my opinion, I'm not a teacher, but as I mentioned before we started this interview, I am a child of two teachers, and I somehow remember, I somehow understand this profession from the other side, not from not from the students' point of view, but also from the teachers' point of view. They need to show the directions.
Okay.
They need to show what to learn and how to learn, because learning a lot of things without context, without any ideas how to use them, also doesn't change anything.
Was it tough to be a child of two teachers?
No. On the one hand side, it was because I deliberately avoided schools where my mom was somehow known.
Okay.
In order to avoid, you get the A because your mom is a teacher.
Okay. So it was, you wanted to show yourself your self-worth.
I had an obsession that I will show that everything I achieved is my work and not the work of my parents.
Do you think that this obsession drives you to the point where you are right now?
Probably yes.
Okay.
Probably yes. When I walked into my professional life after finishing the university, my father was a very important person in Vattenfall. So
a big company. Yeah.
He could easily put me in some department with huge salary, zero duties. My profession is your son. But I told him, no, I don't want it. I don't want it. I want to start my own company and even struggle with payments with customers, but I don't want to be considered as your son in this way, of course, because I was proud to be his son. I was proud of what he was and what he is right now. But I didn't want him to be confused with this profession son.
From your current perspective, parting ways with your father and his big company, was it a good decision for you?
Yes. I don't regret it.
Okay.
Of course, it also closed me a lot of doors for working for this company because they had needs that my company was able to fulfill.
But you didn't want it?
I didn't want it.
Okay. What was the hardest part? Because how long have you been entrepreneur?
Since 1998.
Since
Basically,
1998.
I started my company when I was at the 4th year of the university.
Okay.
And the main reason was that at these times I was a translator working for Helion Publishing House. It was easier for me to issue an invoice and also easier for them.
Okay.
So that was the reason at these times. Then I started to be a developer, like most of us probably. PHP, Flash, all this.
Flash, yes. Brilliant
and
technology.
And I was one of the probably few people in Poland that know a software called Director. Do you remember Director?
No.
Director was kind of.
I haven't worked with it.
It was something like Flash, but much more complicated. It had its own object-based language, programming language called Lingo. It was used for different multimedia publications that were at these times recorded on CDs and distributed as a CD records.
I remember two of my friends during the university, they were actually making some extra money creating e-learning programs based on this Lingo and that Director platform. Yeah, I've never seen it in person.
It was very popular at these times to use it for educational content.
So, what was the hardest moment in your career of entrepreneur?
The first time when I got broke.
Okay. And how many times did you got broke?
4.
Okay. Okay. And the first time was the hardest?
Yeah, because it was just like a year after I moved out from my parents' house,
Okay.
I had my own apartment, 28 square meters. It was, like a huge.
Yeah, huge first time living
Yeah.
alone, huge apartment.
Yeah, I was my dining room, my bedroom, and my workroom were the same place. And I had a customer who refused to pay me.
Oh.
And before he paid me, I paid for a few subcontractors. I paid for CDs that have been printed in one of these factories. I paid for the printing in printing shop. So basically, I was broke. And I was very accounted on this payment.
Okay.
And he refused to pay me. And I remember I managed 3 days without basically eating one slice of bread per day. On the 4th day, I said, okay, kid. I went to my parents' house and say, give me some food. I'm hungry. I'm hungry.
Wow. But how long did it take you to get over this? Because it's always hard. It's first money. You were counting on it. You were not paying your subcontractors, which is also very hard.
Exactly. At this time, I haven't felt like I'm gonna quit this. That was a motivation for me. Okay. That was some kind of a cup, but I can manage this. I can rebuild myself. I can do it from scratch again. On the second time, it was easier because I had some money already. I have some saved money. So, like 3 months without customers was quite maybe not easy, but I survived. But the last time was very difficult because it was also, it happened at the time when I had some personal problems and health problems, and that was very difficult for me.
Okay.
And it ended with the psychoanalysis and a psychiatrist.
Okay, so it was harder.
It was very hard, yeah.
For you, okay. But
I got depression, just to be honest.
Yeah. But then, how one can you come out of depression and come back to the same thing that made you depressed in the first place? Or should you?
You should remember what was the reason of this depression and try to avoid it. Or learn how to recognize that it's coming. Okay. And do as much as possible to avoid it. Because they say that you can never be totally free from depression. It always sits on the back of your head and raises its head when something wrong happens.
So weren't you afraid to go back into business?
No, I'm so... I don't know why, don't ask me why, but I wasn't afraid.
Okay, so it was your thing. You just like to be entrepreneur.
Exactly.
So what is the most important lesson you've learned from these 25 years of being an entrepreneur?
Do you remember the movie Rocky?
Yes.
Do you remember the thing that he said to his son?
What was it?
I don't remember the exact words, but the idea was it doesn't matter how strong you punch. It matters. The thing that matters is how strong you can get punched and keep moving.
It's actually quite interesting.
Yeah, I said the same thing to Łukasz when he interviewed me like a year ago. I think that should be the most important thing that you should remember when you have your own business.
So you should learn how to get punches.
Exactly, how to avoid them or how to block them. But
because they are coming.
You should be prepared for much difficult fight than you would have to struggle working for someone else.
Do you think that the world 20 years ago was much more difficult than now?
I think it was easier.
Easier?
Mostly because there was not so much IT companies on the market. There were less technologies to choose from. And there were no TikTok. There was no, there was no this dopamine culture that makes people think that it's enough to read some few sentences about technology and watch the short TikTok material and consider himself as an expert.
Isn't it quite scary that you have all these short videos that present you a topic that you could spend years on studying, and then you feel like you know the whole subject?
That's exactly the thing that I was discussing with my dad when I was coming to your studio, because there is always this so-called age gap. We think differently than our parents. They were thinking differently than their parents, and our kids think totally differently than we do. But I think that when I was 25 years old, and my, just say, mentor, who was the CEO of one of my first customers, he was the very old guy who built this company from scratch, also with different obstacles, but his knowledge was impressive. It was like 30 years of experience in running technological company. So whatever he said, we were just like the word of God. Right now, sometimes I see that when I'm talking to some people that I have almost 30 years of experience, it's like, so what?
Maciej, thank you for coming to my humble studio.
Thank
you
you
very much for the interview. Thank you guys for watching.
Thanks.
Have a great day ahead. Bye-bye.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.